The courts are the only thing we have standing between the government, parliament, and the citizen. So the courts decide two things. One, the relationship between the federal and provincial governments and institutions like the Senate and other constitutional institutions, and the state and the citizen. You remove the courts, what you have on a spectrum of benevolence to genocidal is simply a dictatorship. Call it what you want. It's a dictatorship. There's no two ways about it. And one of the really unfortunate aspects of recognizing or describing a dictatorship because of recent 20th century history is we have a tendency to confuse and equate a dictatorship with violence and peace with democracy. The United States of America, despite its problems, was probably the most vibrant democracy in the world in the 20th century, but they were also the most pathologically, sociologically violent society on the face of the earth. The two have nothing to do with each other. Canada, or places like some of the Nordic countries, were the most peaceful countries in the world, but they're dictatorial. I've been talking about a quiet dictatorship since the Crétin government. For me, it came down with a thump in April 2001 in Quebec City at the Summit of the Americas. That was the statement. You fuck off, you live in a dictatorship. Go home or we'll tear gas you. Okay? That was it. There were earlier signs, but because the people who were the victims of the action of the government didn't really get much attention. My Vancouver partners and I, mostly my Vancouver partners, I was in the background, defended the First Nations at Guffiston Lake. I don't know, who remembers Guffiston Lake? Very few. Lloyd Axworthy and Princess Diana of Wales were touring the world trying to convince the world that we should ban landmines, military landmines. First Nations in northern BC occupied a piece of land they said was stolen from them. The Canadian Army surrounded them and laced the perimeter with the landmines Princess Diana and Lloyd Axworthy were trying to ban over Europe at the same frigging time, right? So the dictatorship, and that was all illegal action under the Constitution. Under our Constitution, you cannot dispatch military personnel against our civilian population. They did the same thing at Oka. That was illegal, completely illegal, contrary to the Constitution, okay? So that was the beginnings of our in-your-face dictatorship. Since the Chrétien government, we have slid into a quiet, polite dictatorship in typical Canadian fashion. You don't see the genocide, you don't see, but it's there. Security certificates, indefinite detention without knowing the evidence against you. What is that? You don't need to put 60,000 people in a concentration camp. All you need to do is put 5 of them for indefinitely as a message to the rest of us, okay? That's the same phenomenon.